have in the studio today to discuss dialogue between Christianity and African traditional religion. We have in the studio Reverend Monsignor Dr. Anthony Anigiello, Vicar for Priests, Catholic Diocese of Enugu. He's also the parish priest, St. Mary Parish, Transekulu. Monsignor, you're welcome to the program. We also have in the studio Reverend Father Dr. John Madubuko, Chairman, Theology Commission, Catholic Diocese of Enugu, Chaplain, St. Mulumba Chaplaincy, UNEC, and a lecturer at the Department of Religion, UNN. Father, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, listeners.
We also have Reverend Father Joseph Ezechi, PhD. He's the parish priest, All Saints Parish, Ibawa, Nike Enugu. And he's also a lecturer at Bigard Memorial Seminary, Enugu. He's also the chairman in Culturation Commission, Catholic Diocese of Enugu. You're welcome, Father.
Thank you, and good evening.
I think we have, we want to say that even for time, want of time, we won't waste your time, because we have a team that will engage all of us, educate all of us, entertain all of us, spiritually and of course morally. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this program.
Thank you.
Let me start to sign up the team. Dialogue between Christianity and African traditional religion. What's the purpose of religion? Let's start from that.
You find that sociology and anthropology have not found any social institution without some sense of religion. And from those sociological surveys, you find that religion serves either or concertedly all of 5 or 6 purposes. First of all, religion seeks to give meaning to the purpose of life. Secondly, it reinforces social unity and stability. Thirdly, it serves as an agent of social control of behavior. Fourthly, it promotes physical and psychological well-being. In the fifth point, it motivates people to work for positive social change. And last, it disposes men to find a meaning in what we regard as catastrophe, that is death. The issue of the purpose of life. Some people wonder, people are born with deformities at life. Is life meaningful for such people? Why do they come into existence? People are born and die upon death. Is life worth it from this perspective? People acquire wealth and all of a sudden grow poor. Have they fulfilled their life? All these challenges make people wonder, is life worth it at all? And some even would want to challenge and support suicide as a solution. When you find that life is not acceptable to you, you commit suicide. But religion comes to tell us that human life must not be perceived only from material perspective, that there is a deeper sense in life than just what we encounter in earthly vicissitudes. That life is worth living when it is anchored on God. God gives the purpose. It is God who gives life, and we can only understand life if we look at it from his own perspective. Then on the issue of reinforcing social stability, religion is a tool for making members of the human society feel and nurture their sense of belonging. First, we find that practitioners of particular religion find it easy to welcome one another without reservations. For example, when I went abroad to study, I came into an Austrian family that never saw me in life. But because I was introduced to them as a candidate for the Catholic priesthood, they integrated me completely into their family. They would leave their house and leave me alone. They would leave their telephone at my disposal. Everything about my life at their disposal. They took me really as one of the members of the family because of religion. The other Africans who were there told us, if they applied for tenancy in a house on telephone, they admitted, but when they opened the door and saw a black man, I said, sorry, the house was given up yesterday. So religion, helps actually in that regard. Then on the issue of religion as an agent of social control of behavior, it is religion that makes people comply with norms in the society, because they are brought to believe that if they fail, they will be punished by the deities, and it helps hold them, contain their behavior. And the issue of promoting physical and psychological well-being. Religious people, when they are sick, for example, instead of asking, why me? Deeply religious people believe that all is in the hands of God. And this saves them high blood pressure when they accept their situation because of their belief in God. You have that they have a balanced life. So when religious people are bereaved, they do not break their heads. They are brought by their religion to submit to the Almighty, who has will to call his child. And they will believe that this departure is not annihilation, but a progression to fulfillment. Then on the issue of death, that many people think that death is a proof that life has no meaning, and they can't get reconciled. They have accumulated wealth and they die, and some other person comes to inherit all they have acquired. So death becomes destruction. But in many religions we see that death is fulfillment. It disposes people to accept death without grumbling, because they know it is a transition to fulfillment of life.
Monsignor, we'll have to hold it there. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I wouldn't know if Father John has something to say on this.
Yeah, I thank Monsignor for this enlightenment, but I would like to see it from a more fundamental aspect. The purpose and the meaning of religion, in my understanding, are somewhat intertwined. Religion will refer to the fact of the perception and all the activities of the human person towards supernatural beings, especially understood in our own setting and climb, and understanding that there is a supernatural, or there are supernaturals. And then religion involves both this perception and every other activity that is done towards a relationship with this or these beings, and then coming down again to the sociological aspect, relating to and with one another with regard to achieving this relationship with the supernatural, as well as the other facts, sociological, anthropological, psychological, that Monsignor has pointed out.
So thank you very much, Father John. Father Joe, let's move on to you. We want to know, how does African traditional religion fulfill the purpose of religion?
Okay, religion from an African perspective is a man's or people's consciousness of the existence of a being that is superior to them, maybe transcendent being or even immanent being that is superior to them, and their tendency to worship these beings. And this religion in Africa is actually comes out of people's experience from their own, from the African environment. So African religion for the African, while it shares every other characteristics with other religions, seems to be particular an African experience, and tries to solve the African man's problem from different perspectives, like from the spiritual perspective, from the material perspective, and from moral perspective. For example, spiritually, it tries to develop systems of belief that gives meaning and hope to the man's life, like belief in God, belief in life after death, which assures the African that after he struggles here, he's not dying like a rat, he's not dying like a goat, but his life is moving over to the next life, where he joins his ancestors, where he has a kind of reward for his life here. So religion gives him that kind of spiritual contentment that after living here and doing well, he will live in the next life. And from a material perspective, because African traditional religion is so materialistic in a sense that it tries to assure the African of certain basic material needs, like good harvest, okay, like children, more children in the family, good life, and it develops different rituals and prayers that will help the African to attain these things, and sacrifices, that helps the African man to attain these things. In fact, these rituals and prayers seems to be an interpretation of this belief system. So people do sacrifices or say prayers according to what they believe. Like they say in Latin, lex credendi, lex orandi. The way people say shows you the way they believe. And even so, if you see an African man sacrificing to his ancestor, you can understand that he knows that the ancestor lives even after death. Then, from a moral perspective, African traditional religion also tries to encourage people to live good life in order to be able to attain that same hope of living in the next world. You see a lot of taboos, you see a lot of abominable things that are defined as abominable, and other what we call positive cults, like observances, which an African, a typical African, has to follow in order to establish a kind of equilibrium. This because religion does not only connect him to the gods or the spirit world, but also enhances interpersonal relationships. In fact, the African man believes that to be able to have a peaceful environment, there has to be a harmony between men and their God. That's between man and man, and between man and God. So you have a kind of horizontal relationship, then you have a kind of vertical relationship. So this and other ways how the ATR has tried to sustain the traditional African society, both physically and spiritually.
Thank you very much, Father. I thought the Musaino, looking at it's obvious that religion has a good purpose for the society, and of course in terms of moral upbringing, sociological, anthropological, and spiritual upbringing, so that the society will be better for it. But there is also the area of differences in terms of the deity each of the religion choose to follow. The African traditional religion, yes, believe in Chuku, like most of them, yet the church also have the same belief in God, the supreme God. Yet there is a way we all of us go to God. Mosano, how do you look at these differences? And how is that affecting our faith generally?
The purpose of my highlighting the purpose of religion is for us to see that there is an inborn yearning in man to relate with the supernatural, and we have done this on various levels. Various religions sought for a way to relate with God. The Abrahamic religion would come to a stage where they would accept sacrifice. Abraham went to sacrifice his son as pleasing to God, as a delectable thing. But in Christianity, God now says, do not search for me in those various means. Let me tell you how you approach God, who is your creator, who made you in his own image and likeness. You reflect him. He's not to be found in trees, he's not to be found in mountains, not to be found in anything. He is found in his Son, who is given to us. And this then tells us how we approach the Father and how we approach God, whom we relate with. So the Christian religion now becomes a personal religion. God, who is person. In most religions it looks odious. God cannot be a human being. But God in Christ tells us, you are coming to me and see how you can find me. So in Christ now we have the various ways of living so that we realize the purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is not just only harmony on earthly basis, but yes, you live in good understanding with your neighbors, but also relate vertically with God, the supreme God, who says, I am your Father, you come to me.
Thank you, Monsignor. Father John, I want to come back to you. Father Joseph established actually that the ATR has a purpose to fulfill in religion. Now, how does Christianity fulfill the purpose of this religion we talk about?
Thank you. Religion, as we try to establish, and then from the traditional point of view, found across board, is about the search or the searches for that God. There's that inner yearning in the human person the appreciation of the supernatural about his person, and then this yearning to have a touch with the supernatural brought about religion, relationship. And then the traditional religion and its ways of establishing this relationship, this fulfillment of the purpose, became the searches. Now Christianity establishes that this that human beings were searching for is now provided by God in the revelation of his Son, Jesus Christ. If we have to go to the Bible, the letter to the Hebrews will put it clearly this way, in various ways in the chapter 1 of that passage. In various ways God spoke to our fathers, and it named particular ways it perceived he spoke. But in our own time, he has spoken to us through his Son, Jesus Christ. So, the way Christianity fulfills this purpose is in the person of Jesus Christ, in the radical, I would say, understanding of God that he came to establish. And this radical establishment he made is that God is no longer the holy order, but is now God with us. Is now Father. And then he becomes a means through which this Father is seen, is reached, is related to. And he will make the claim and establish it in John's Gospel and say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So that all those searches human beings were involved in the various religions that there are, find fulfillment in and through him. Going on with the steps established by Father Joseph on the various stages, the spiritual, that's our prayer, that's our faith, that's our ritual representations, reenactments, as the case may be, that seeks to establish this vertical relationship to the supernatural. And then the material aspect, Jesus, who came to proclaim this God, also dealt with human problems in himself as an example, and then attempting and solving other people's problems and enhancing people's understanding of the problems of life on the material aspect, and teaching reorientations about life and what life presents. And then on the moral aspect too, he was a teacher of the law who came to fulfill the law in itself, the spirit of the law, enhancing even what the letters provided, enhancing then the social order that is also the purpose of religion that Monsignor spoke about.
And Father Joseph, let me return back to you, because you started by giving us the kind of position, the way Africans look at religion and what they still benefit by living a good life. But we're looking at the Christianity now. Christianity is about Jesus Christ. Go you to all nations, make disciples for all nations. How has the African religion been able to accept Christianity based on the experience, field experiences as a priest?
Okay, basically, if you go back to when the missionaries came first, our ancestors actually had open minds towards the missionaries. They accepted these people, they gave them land, even though they didn't fully understand what they were presenting to them, but they accepted them, they loved, but they even gave their children to go to the new religion, to learn their education, to learn their doctrines, to learn catechism. So basically, the traditional African accepted Christianity, but in the course of time, in the course of history, probably there were some difficulties, especially when some of the teachings of Christianity tend to contradict what they already know and believe in due to their own experiences. So that's why sometimes a traditional African may come to church, but when he meets a very difficult situation, he tends to go back to his African roots. In that sense, now you see a kind of conflict in the acceptance. So but basically, if you see the rate at which Christianity has spread in Igbo land, for example, you will understand that the people understood it, the people accepted it. But in challenging times, it is not always the case that those of them who have accepted Christianity lived according to the basic Christian principles. And let me add that sometimes some of them do not understand, don't understand what Christianity expects from them. They don't think it's possible. But Christianity, coming with a higher level, for example, from my experience, I understand that Christianity brings higher mental faculty to play in this discharge of religion than what the traditional African has. So sometimes it's not easy for the African to accept most of what the Christian has said in practical terms, like when problems arise. So that's why you see some of them, they come to church in the morning, they go to their traditional worship to sort out other things. So this is a kind of ambivalent openness to Christianity.
I want to thank you very much, Father Joseph. When you look at Christianity and look at the African traditional religion, you begin to see that they are bound to be conflict. But the church have been able to, through enculturation, been able to navigate this by ensuring that they carry along the local culture in evangelization. But we'll leave that for now. When we come back, people will make reactions. We'll begin to take the questions now. Call us at 09128945945. Make it brief because we're running short of time here. We just have less than 20 minutes to take the questions here. 09128945945. And while we are talking about how the church be able to use enculturation, marrying the local custom, how the church have been able to advance its evangelization using that process.
The problem is sometimes we confuse African traditional religion with African way of life.
Okay.
African way of life is broader than just religion.
Okay, we'll take this question further. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Are you hearing me?
We are hearing you.
Okay, I'm talking from 90 Mile Corner. I would like to put the question to Reverend Father.
Name, sir. Let me know who's on the phone.
My name is Immanuel Thunderbolt. Aka Sean One in 90 Mile.
Your question?
My question is this: how I hear you talking about how Africa believes in Christ. That I'm coming to you now. Those foreign nations that bring Christ for us, they don't know Christ, but we Africa know Christ. That's why we are fighting for our freedom, being Biafra. I'm a freedom fighter. And we are a Jewish come from Israel. I don't believe in one Nigeria. Nigeria can be one. That being is one-side nation. That's why that the Igbo people kill Muammar Gaddafi from Libya, because he said that Nigeria cannot be one where you have Muslim and Christian.
Emmanuel, you are a Christian, and the name Emmanuel shows that you're a Christian. So what you are saying is different from where we are going. If you're a Biafra, it's a political issue. We're talking about Christianity. I'm talking about religion and God here. Thank you. Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening, my friend.
Go ahead, NDBC.
I want to ask this question. The traditional religion, if somebody is sick, for instance, in a Igbo land, they may go they may take them to a hospital, and after many trials, the person may not be getting better. Then they should go and ask, what's the problem? Then the fortune teller may tell that this man committed a blunder or something against the land or something. They should go and do so thing to make the man get well. And once that thing is done, if I'm now, we just pick up. What's the relationship of those things with the Christian religion?
Thank you very much. I think after the question yourself, I will take a reaction from my son or Father Joseph, so that we can start from there. Maybe react to that, please, so that we can clear that angle.
Okay, yeah, well, I can say that some of the ailments that people think are spiritual are actually medical. Okay, and even some of the practices in the traditional religion that are used to cure those things, they appear spiritual practices at the surface, but underneath they're actually medical. Yeah, and in fact, do you know that some of those people they go to cure them when they take them away from the hospital, some of those dibias they go to cure them actually administer herbs, and herbs are not actually spiritual elements. They have intrinsic medical powers, herbs created by God, even though they are using it in the context of religion. So one of the responses I can give him is that some of those practices in the tradition are actually medical or scientific, even though shrouded in religion. Then I can also say that it is true that there are some really spiritual problems from the African experience. We don't dismiss that completely.
Yeah, but further, look at some rituals and sacrifices are performed so that the person should be free before they can even administer the.
Like I told you, religion has a psychological dimension, and sickness also has a psychological dimension. So when you play upon the psychological dimension, the person has healing, relief. So when they are told to go and do traditional rites, it can correspond to this psychological dimension. You finish doing it and you feel relieved and cathartic. But the truth is that sickness also comes in various forms. Unfortunately, our own Christian medical doctors here at home easily give up. When they try a medical procedure and it doesn't help you, they say return. But you find that the white man does not give up. I take, for example, there is a case of a boy who was born and started growing old immediately upon birth. All trappings of old age came on the individual. They went to several hospitals, they could not find a cure. And eventually it was discovered that this is a sickness that occurs in 1 in 1,000 people. And there was no cure. It is just a degeneration that happens. In our own traditional setting, when you see it, they will perhaps say it's the ancestors because of the father's fault. They will kill him out and say it's a crime, it's an abomination. So Christian religion knows that science is valid and religion is valid. And for healings, sometimes you have to approach it in those two dimensions, spiritual and scientific, ordinary.
So, Father John, may I also ask for your contribution here? But then I also want you to address what problems do our people have with Christianity? You can just deposit with what you want to answer now.
The basic problem our people have with Christianity stems from our understanding of religion. Our people understand religion as the solution to problems, what gives meaning to life, and what solves life's problems. It is understood as extrinsic. It must give me solution to my problem, and I keep searching for this solution. Either I find it or I die searching for it. But Christianity comes and says, yes, there is God, there is also human problem. Christianity is intrinsic, and that's the dimension of faith. Our people have faith, they believe, but faith for majority of our people is understood from the aspect of solution to my problem. Faith is solution to my problem. But Christianity says faith can be solution to problem, but faith is fundamentally also a challenge, a movement towards him who knows me even more than I know my circumstance.
Okay, Father. When you look at faith now, it's going to show now the difference, because the Christian is taught to have faith in God and trust God, and God will certainly not disappoint him. But the man who is not will not tell you no. He can't with time. He has to look for a search for whichever we have. If you're a childless person, if you're telling wait on God, the child will certainly come. He will not be patient with you. But let's take more calls so that we can round up. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Odanji. Good evening to my reverend brothers in the house. Rather interesting Catholic honestly. I know that in Islamic religion, they have Muhammad, a prophet. May Allah grant him time of praise and all that. There is that Nabi Isa. I know that Nabi Isa refers to Jesus Christ, that appeared over 90 times in the Holy Quran, much more than Muhammad, the prophet. Now, we come to African traditional religion. We know Chukwuodioma, Yahweh Wangini, Omasai, and the rest. Who is Jesus in African traditional religion? Please, I would want to know.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. You can see we are reaching our data bank, because the question is, who is Jesus in African religion?
Now, who is Jesus in African religion? The African has the understanding of a supreme being, and in our Igbo tradition we call him Chiuku. But Chiuku is understood as the holy order. He is somewhere unapproachable, more or less. But then, what is pervasive in our Igbo culture is Chi. Chi has a spark of that Chiuku in the hierarchy of the divines. God, Chiuku, is the highest of the order. Then the Chi constitutes the subclass in the divine, the mediator between the human and that Chiuku. The Chi is understood in our Igbo culture as the one responsible for the individual beings that there are, human beings, stone, trees, and the rest of them. So that Chi is the mediator between Chiuku and the physical beings that we have. Now, Christianity comes and says that God, who is holy order, has revealed himself in Jesus Christ, the incarnation. God now says, I have come amongst you, Emmanuel, God with us, the incarnate one. So that that which we were perceiving in our Igbo tradition as Chi, the mediator between the Chiuku and the physical beings that there are, there the understanding of Jesus Christ in Christian theology comes to be, because in him and through him all things were made. So when we go from that understanding, we will understand that our religion, our traditional religion, will more or less be understood as proto-evangelium, as it were, preparation for the message of the gospel that Jesus.
Father, let's take the last call because that is on our side. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself. This is.
Okay, I'm going to
Go on.
Okay, people know, look at that. No. Oh, I'm talking. I'm looking at bịa nchọrọ ịjụ bụ na ka ebe ụka were ikwu gbasara asịrị na mmadụ natara mmadụ ụwa ihe ọnụ ụwa a na-ekwu okwu ya maka ọnwa ihe merụ ere nna so mmadụ asị m onye dịkwara ihe ọkwụrụ na ha bụ ụka agasị ụka ike kama rịba ewechara oge ihe tụmasị gị ọ na-afọta ụzọ so the person asị m anyị ga-ama ihe ọnụ ụwa mụ ọ bụ na onye ụka amadị ihe ga-emezi ka ihe na-eme wee kwụsị so achọrọ m ịma ihe ụka were ikwu ihe gbasara ọnụ ụwa na onye dị mma ka ọnwụjọ
ịfọrọ a ga-aza gị ndị ga-anaba ga-aza gị ọfụma ka anabatakwa ofu onye ka anyị chịkọzọ maka na anyị kwuru na oge adịrọla anyị chaa maka mmadụ ịtọ na ebe a nụnwa gbaa na 09128945945 mmadụ ịtọ na ebe a nwere onye godo ewugwo na nwe amachi mmiri ihe mana it's good that we move forward. Let's turn to Musano. Let's begin to round up. Musano, let's cap it up. What is the message, the dialogue all about?
It is that religion is man's yearning, and before Christ came, humanity was grouping, searching for God in various means, but Christ came to tell us the right way to go. You know, if I want to travel to Onitsha from Enugu, I could choose to go to Port Harcourt and Owerri and arrive at Onitsha, but I could choose to go from here through Night Mile and arrive, and it would be faster. Christ is the fastest route to our relationship with God.
And Father?
Yeah, Jesus is the answer to those searches that our traditional religion or religions were engaged in. And as we will say in banal settings, why look for good where excellence is possible? And then a bit on the question our brother asked, Christian theology believes in God's creation of each individual with the person's uniqueness. The idea of reincarnation that our traditional religion has is the human being's attempt at eternalizing himself or herself, in the fact that we do not know how the hereafter sees or looks like. We believe that people are recycled, but Christian faith says God creates each person in his uniqueness.
Joseph?
Okay, maybe I should start with reincarnation to just say a little
briefly. I just have about
yes, because
1 minute and
okay, because even the idea of reincarnation is not even properly understood by those who are using it in ATR. There are various parts of it, but what is more constant is that, given the idea, that's projected by Professor Ipunife, it is not really that the grandfather has come back to life, like where you have a problem of confusion of identity, but it's more or less that a trait of the grandfather is seen in the child, something you can explain with genetic engineering, genetics. Okay, that maybe if a father is pugnacious, and you find one of the grandchildren pugnacious, and people can say, he's behaving like his father. So that is a more understandable, because if you go far out, even in some areas like a Manon area, a woman is said to so it's not really the father that comes back. So having said that, I want to say that the whole idea of dialogue is to show our people that it is possible that Christianity and African traditional religion can actually coexist, talk together, share ideas together, and that they are not fighting actually. Because if you see from even the introductions that we have made, you see that they are all geared towards one end, even though in different ways. So they are not fighting, and people should, and it is possible that ATR, like African traditional religion, can learn a lot from Christianity, and Christianity can also imbibe certain things that is for the good of man from ATR.